All right, well, welcome to Business 450 Managerial Finance Online during the spring of 2023. Can you believe it's already 2023? I always think that these are the hard times to sign the date because we've just been living so much in 2022 and it's hard to remember that it is January of 2023. Our class is going to be a great adventure. And I get to facilitate that adventure as a guide of sorts. But I'll be learning alongside you. I don't have all the answers figured out myself. In many ways, I'm facilitating this. I'm your instructor, professor. But mostly, I'm your friend. I will hope that we can become friends during this time. Even though we're doing this a little bit through medium of camera, we will have some times when we do these synchronous gatherings on Zoom, and I hope that you'll choose to make those, though they are not necessarily something that I'm going to grade you on, but I do hope that you participate in those if you can make it. My name is Lars Coburn, if you're not familiar with me, and I am working at Bushnell University as the Director of University Relations in the Advancement Office, and that's where I serve primarily as Church Relations Director, and I also do fundraising, and I serve our database and our website services. And so you may be asking yourself, what is a fundraiser doing teaching managerial finance? Well, I got my accounting degree in undergrad from Bushnell, from Northwest Christian University, and then spent about 8 years as a pastor. I was primarily a youth pastor in San Diego, California, and then Glendale, California, and got my seminary degree at Fuller Theological Seminary. So that's a little bit about me. I've got a photo of my family that I'll throw in here as well in the forum. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is in the introduction forum, take a look at my introduction as well, and you'll see that I've included some of the things that we want to try and highlight about hopes and expectations for the course and all of that. And I would love for you to include a photo of yourself and any key family members or friendships or people in your life that are key people in your life. So for me, I have my wife Janelle and my two daughters, Ashlyn, who's 4, and Sloan, who's about to be turned 2. You'll see on the syllabus, and so I encourage you, whether it's morning or night, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of water or something and pull out your syllabus. So I'll give you just a moment as you're kind of doing that, like look up your syllabus as you're listening to me talk a little bit of it. It'll be important for you during this video to really have that syllabus in front of you and get oriented to the class. So the course is managerial finance. But this is Bushnell University, and we get to infuse our conversations about business and all those from a Christ-centered perspective within a Christ-centered community. And so while I won't be requiring you to read any Bible verses or anything like that, I will be sharing devotionals each week at the beginning of my lecture. And I'm not going to judge you if that's not your thing. That's totally fine. But I find God has some things to say about money, and I find it to be helpful for me as I read Scripture. And so I'll be reading during this course from a translation of the Bible called the Common English Bible. It may be less familiar to some of you. And I just wanted to open with this psalm. Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all its inhabitants too. Because God is the one who established it on the seas. God set it firmly on the waters. Who can ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who can stand in his holy sanctuary? Only the one with clean hands and a pure heart. The one who hasn't made any false promises. The one who hasn't sworn dishonestly. That kind of person will receive blessings from the Lord and righteousness from the God who saves. And that's how things are with the generation that seeks him, that seeks the face of Jacob's God. And then it has a little poem at the end. Mighty gates lift up your heads, ancient doors rise up, so the glorious King can enter. Who is this glorious King? The Lord strong and powerful, the Lord powerful in battle. Mighty gates, lift up your heads. Ancient doors, rise up so the glorious King can enter. Who is this glorious King? The Lord of heavenly forces. He is the glorious King. As we talk about managerial finance, we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about the assets, the liabilities, the shareholder equity. These are the things that make up kind of the balance sheet, for instance. And as we look at income statements and as we look at cash flows, we're going to be talking about capital and how do we raise capital and how do we do these things. We're going to talk a little bit about the life cycle of a business and how do they source funds. And as we do that, I think it's helpful as Christians to remind ourselves, who does this all belong to? Sometimes we can be so tight-gripped that we can be kind of like what Princess Leia describes about Tarkin, who the tighter we grip, the more star systems slip through our fingers. And that tighter grip on things actually sometimes causes us to implode, to have problems. This is what greed and pride lead to. And so believing that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it allows us to hold things a little more open-handedly and loosely. And that's my approach to finances and financial management, will be to invite us to have outside investigators, to make sure we're displaying our information correctly, to not be dishonest, or as the psalmist says, the one who has made false promises or is dishonest. Those are the people that don't get blessings, but it's the pure hands, the clean heart people, the people who are above board. And one of my mentors was a CPA, and he often would tell me that pastors and accountants have the most sacred of jobs because they both deal with people's money and finances. And so that calls us to be people of integrity and character, because that is so, so important. We're dealing with some of the most valuable things people have, their money. And they put a lot of things into the way in which they deal with their money. So for you, as you go into this course, it's not going to just be an intellectual exercise in reminding yourself about some accounting things, thinking a little bit about investments and cash flows. It'll also be an invitation for you to think about your own finances, and there's going to be a particular assignment about that as well. And how do you hold them? In what way do you approach money and think about money? We're not just talking about big companies and publicly traded things, though we will. We're also inviting you to grow in your role as a leader, as someone who interprets financial statements. You may not be an accountant who actually creates the balance sheet or the income statement or the statement of cash flows, but you need to be able to interpret them and then make wise decisions and recommend wise decisions. And it will be better for you if you hold things a little more open-handedly, that you are transparent and honest, and that you approach these things with a belief that truly all of these resources belong not to me, not to my bottom line, not to my shareholders, not to the CEO or the board, but to God. And then it calls us to a higher level of transparency. So I hope by now you've had a sip of your coffee or drink of water. You have your syllabus in front of you like I do. Let's go through it. You'll notice that my office is located in the SIFKE building, University Advancement. It's on the second floor of SIFKE, and you can set up office hours with me there. I will be available Mondays, most Mondays, from 10 a.m. to 12. And then you'll find me likely on Mondays in the cafeteria, and then online by appointment. So if cafeteria lunch is a good thing, or if something else on Mondays, that's the best time for me. But otherwise, we can set up a Zoom link by appointment. And if you're not a local student, I totally understand. You may not be able to come to an in-person office hours. This is the front cover of the book, Foundations of Financial Management, the 17th edition. So if you have a different edition, make sure you check with me. We'll want to make sure that the assignments line up, whether it's the practice or whether it's the problems that I assign or the discussion questions. just so that I'm not grading you down because you have a different edition. As we go through this, I want to call out the objectives. So we're trying to understand what financial managers do. We're going to talk a little bit about Christian financial management principles. Talked a little bit about how I'm going to do that through devotionals, but also throughout the course. And then you're going to get to do some things with different ratios and different financial statements on publicly traded companies. You can keep working through those. These course objectives tie to our final exam and to the company assignments that we do, as well as our quizzes and other things. Okay, so the course has a grading rubric. You'll see right past the textbook and resource material. The grading rubric shows you the percentage of the total points in the course. It's 1,000 total points. And then you have your weekly homework problems, quizzes, participation, which is your discussion forum, your tests or final exam and midterm. You can hear my kids in the background. And then there's this assignment called the Personal Budget Reflection. And that's going to be due in week 8 alongside your final exam. And it's a very simple practice where you're going to total up your income and your expenses, and you're going to look at all of those things. And as an undergraduate student, you may not have a whole lot of income. And you may be still relying on other sources of income or other people. So if it would be helpful, you might talk with someone that's in a household with you, a household relationship, whether it's a family member or a roommate or something like that, and you look together at your pooled financial situation. And then you don't submit that financial budget of income and expenses to me. You simply review that with a trusted advisor. And so as you review that, then you will write a paper on it. And the full assignment description is in Beacon Learning. So you can review that. I put that description in both week 7 and week 8. Week 8 is when it's due, but in week 7 I wanted you to have an extra week ahead of time to work on that assignment. You can always look ahead in Beacon Learning at assignments coming up and work on them ahead of time. I am working my best to have all the lecture videos done by the end of week 1. So you may notice that week 1 and 2 will probably be done before you dig into this course, and the later lectures will be done by the end of next week, which is a little bit later than I had hoped, but thank you for your patience. If you have any questions, my contact info is at the top of the syllabus, and then you can also submit questions through Beacon Learning through the forums. As we work in, there's quizzes, and those quizzes are worth 25 points each. There's 6 quizzes, so you don't have quizzes on the weeks you have a midterm and a final. The quizzes cover the topics discussed in the chapters. So we'll be covering 2 chapters every week. Except for week 8, where we won't have any reading assigned, but you'll have your final exam and any leftover assignments that are due. Let's see. Okay, the company assignments are 4 of them. You'll notice that in week 1 you have the background assignment due, and then the ratio analysis assignment, the operational and financial leverage assignment, and the stock price and dividend assignment will be spread out through the course. I think the last 2 are week 5 or week 6 and 7. But these would be best if you actually work on the same company. So as you do the background assignment on that company, then you use that same company to do the other assignments. If for some reason you run into a problem where your company maybe doesn't have certain statements or you can't find the information easily, feel free to let me know ahead of time and then find a company that works. The larger the company, typically, the larger that it is. But there's some good cautionary things about what companies to use in the background assignment instructions. So please review that as soon as you can. You'll notice that each assignment should be 2 pages of double spaced, and APA formatting is what you're going to be following. though no cover sheet is needed for that. And your references page don't count for the word count or the page count. So just pay attention to that. I would love for your feedback on this course and how we can improve it and how I can improve as a instructor. You'll notice in the syllabus I mentioned that I've gotten better about how I communicate my grading rubrics for papers. This class does not have a lot of papers. They're just 2-page papers. They're not lengthy writing assignments. So I'm not going to be using as in-depth grading rubrics for those writings. You'll notice in each assignment for the company assignments, there is a simple grading rubric of the points for APA style, the points for getting the calculations correct, and the points for making an argument that is sound or recommendations that are wise. But I will read your course evaluations and I will adopt some new practices based on what you give. So if you would, take some notes throughout your time during this course and fill out that. If you scroll through here, you may want to read some of these academic policies, and we're an online class, and so the participation is actually through making sure that you turn in your homework and you participate in the forum discussions. That's the primary way that I know you're participating, and I log the attendance every week. But if you have questions about that, please let me know. I'll go all the way down to the class schedule, which is close to the bottom of the syllabus. This is an 8-week course, and so we start on the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is Tuesday, January 17th. So a little bit makes our first week a little bit shorter, though you can be working ahead. And then our last week of this course would be the 12th of March. And so you'll want to make sure that assignments are all in by that Sunday. And then I hope that you have a great rest of your spring. You'll see below the dates to know, calendars by session there, that I've attached a spreadsheet or whatever you want to call it, a graph of our weeks and the assignments and all the reading and the lectures. So you'll notice that there's a lecture on every week except for week 8. I will probably do something on week 8, but I'll be inviting you through the discussion forum on week 8 to kind of share with each other and ping off of each other ideas that you really resonated with during the course and how you might be helpful on that. And I'll probably be trying to share a lecture video that week that is less knowledge dispensing and a little bit more application. Things maybe we didn't get to in the course. If you have any questions about these assignments and when they're due, please let me know by email. And like I said, my hope is not just to get your feedback to you right away, but be available for you. And so with that, the policy for contacting me, I'll just give you the quick understanding of how my life kind of operates. On Mondays, I will be grading all of the assignments that have been turned in over the weekend, Sunday night being your deadline. And my hope is to get you your feedback on the course, on your grades, on Tuesday. And so I'll turn the assignments around, make sure you have a grade so you know how you're doing in the course and if you need to make any adjustments or if you're not understanding something or a key topic. Or if you're not meeting the needs that I have set with the APA or those kind of things. So I will try and get you that feedback right away, and then you have the rest of the week to work on your assignments for that week. On the weekends, I hope to give you feedback on Monday. So if you reach out to me on Friday evening, you should hear from me by Monday morning. If you reach out to me on Monday, you should hear from me by Tuesday morning. So Monday through Friday, you can expect a 24-hour response time for when you email me a question and on the weekends, whenever you send it, if it's after 5 o'clock on Friday, you'll hear from me on Monday morning. If it's an emergency and you're going to miss an assignment, please just let me know right as soon as you know. If you're going to be delayed, if you need an extension, the sooner you let me know, and if you do it ahead of time rather than waiting for the deadline to pass, that helps me out. All right, friends, it's been great getting oriented to the course with you, and I look forward to more and more conversations. So blessings, and we'll talk again soon.